The sun had long disappeared behind the rusted metal walls of the spaceport, but the dusty air still felt heavy and dry, like a desert on a dying planet. This was not a place where people came for hope or fresh starts. It was a place where the forgotten were traded like goods, where lives were bargained away for whatever little money they could bring. Here, on the outer rim colony called Vexa Prime, the human traders gathered to auction off alien refugees who had escaped destruction from their own worlds. They were called cargo, as if they were nothing more than broken machines or useless scrap. Among the crowd was a woman unlike the others. She stood tall, but her body was thin, showing signs of hunger and exhaustion. Her skin glowed faintly in the dim light, a soft blue shimmer that flickered like the light of distant stars. Her eyes were deep and calm, but there was a sadness inside them that told a story of pain and loss. This was Serena, an alien from a distant planet that had been destroyed in a war long forgotten by most. Serena had been captured by the traders after fleeing her home. She had been running for months, hiding in dark spaceships and abandoned stations, but finally she was caught. Now, she stood among dozens of other alien refugees, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. The auction was held in a large metal hall that smelled of oil and old metal. The traders shouted and laughed as they displayed their goods. Some were strong fighters, others were engineers or scientists, but to the traders, none of that mattered. They were all just things to be bought and sold. Serena was given a small tag with a number, lot number 89. No one looked at her twice. When the auctioneer called out the starting bid, no one raised their hand. The price went lower and lower until it was almost nothing. People whispered behind their hands, making cruel jokes about her pale glow and silent stance. "She's no good for scrap," one trader sneered. "Not even worth a credit." "She won't last long," another added. "Buyers don't want the weak." Serena stood still, refusing to show her fear or anger. She had learned that showing weakness meant being taken for less. She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered the sky of her home, a sky filled with two suns and endless forests. It felt like a dream now. As the auction went on, other lots were sold quickly. A strong alien with many arms was bought for a good price. A group of children were taken by a family from a nearby colony. But Serena's number was called again and again, and still no one bid. Finally, the auctioneer gave up and shouted, "Lot 89, no bids, sold to the house." This meant that no one wanted her, and she would be thrown into a holding pen with the others who were considered worthless. The traders laughed and pushed her toward a dark corner of the hall. The place smelled of sweat and fear. Serena sat on the cold floor alone but not defeated. She refused to cry. She refused to be broken. Hidden among the crowd was a man named Jonas Thorne. He worked as a mechanic in the spaceport's repair docks. Jonas was tall and strong, with tired eyes that had seen too much. He had fought in the war against Serena's people many years ago and had lost friends in the battles. He hated what the war had done to both sides. But as he watched the auction, something inside him stirred. He saw the way Serena held herself, calm, quiet, like she was waiting for something better. He saw the unfairness in how she was treated. For a long moment, Jonas felt anger rise up in him, but also something else, a small, burning hope. Without thinking, he stepped forward and asked the auctioneer if he could claim Serena under an old law that allowed humans to protect refugees from certain planets. The traders laughed and said it was a waste of time, but Jonas was serious. The auctioneer grumbled, but eventually handed over the small tag with Serena's number. Jonas took her away from the noisy hall and led her to his small workshop, a place filled with tools, machines, and broken robots. Serena looked at Jonas silently, unsure if she could trust him. She had been betrayed before, by people who promised safety but only brought pain. Jonas didn't say much. He gave her water and a thin blanket. He showed her a small cot in the corner, where she could rest. For the first time in months, Serena felt a little warmth, a little hope. Days passed quietly. Serena didn't speak. She watched Jonas as he worked on old machines, fixing parts that no one else wanted to touch. Jonas, in turn, watched her carefully. He saw her strength in the Way she learned quickly, how her hands moved gently but skillfully. One evening, Jonas handed Serena a small device, a translator chip. It was old and scratched, but it allowed her to speak in a language he could understand. She pressed a button and softly said, "Thank you." It was the first time she spoke to anyone in weeks. Jonas nodded, feeling a strange connection growing between them. Life on Vexa Prime was harsh, but for the first time, Serena felt like she had a chance. Not as cargo, not as a number, but as a person. And somewhere deep inside, Jonas knew that he had made a choice that would change both their lives forever. After Jonas claimed Serena from the auction house, he took her to his workshop on the edge of the spaceport. The workshop was a small, cramped place filled with tools, metal parts, and broken machines waiting to be fixed. It was dusty, noisy, and smelled of oil and metal, but it was the only place where Serena could find shelter for the moment. Jonas wasn't rich or powerful, but this place was his sanctuary, and now it would become hers too. When Serena arrived, she was weak. The long journey, the harsh treatment at the auction, and the months of running had taken a toll on her body. She moved slowly, every step a small effort. Jonas noticed the bruises on her arms and the tired look in her glowing eyes. She didn't speak much, only watched everything quietly, as if trying to understand the new world around her. Jonas gave her water and a thin blanket to cover herself. There was a small cot in the corner, a simple metal frame with a thin mattress. He pointed to it, hoping she would rest. Serena looked at him, then nodded slightly and sat down. Her glowing skin dimmed, and she finally closed her eyes. Exhausted. Jonas wasn't sure what to do next. He wasn't a doctor or a social worker. He was just a mechanic, someone who fixed broken machines. But something inside him told him to protect her. She wasn't just a machine or cargo. She was a living being with a story, a past, and a future. He began to repair the machines in his workshop as usual, but he kept an eye on Serena. Sometimes, she would watch him work, her eyes following the movements of his hands as he fixed a cracked power core or tightened bolts on a broken exosuit. There was a quiet understanding between them. She was learning from him and he was learning from her without words. Days passed. Serena's strength slowly returned. She didn't speak, but she listened. Jonas decided to give her a small gift, a translator chip. It was an old device, scratched and worn, but it could help her communicate in the common language spoken on the colony. He carefully attached it behind her ear and showed her how to use it. The first words she said through the device were soft and hesitant. "Thank you." Jonas smiled, feeling a small warmth inside. That simple phrase broke the silence that had filled the workshop for days. It was the start of something new. Serena began to tell her story, little by little. She explained that her people had once lived on a beautiful planet with blue forests and shining rivers. But war had come, a terrible war that destroyed everything. She was a scientist, studying how to protect her world. But when the fighting started, she had to flee. Her ship was damaged and she was captured by space pirates who sold her to the traders. Jonas listened, surprised. He had heard stories about the war, but he never imagined how much pain it had caused. For years, he had believed his own side was right, that the alien species were dangerous enemies. But hearing Serena's story made him see things differently. He realized that the war had created many victims on both sides. Serena wasn't his enemy. She was a survivor, like him. As Serena healed, she began to help Jonas in the workshop. Her hands were delicate but skilled. She had knowledge of technology that Jonas had never seen before. She could repair circuits with a touch, adjust machines to work more efficiently. Together, they fixed broken robots and old exosuits, preparing them for the next shipment or for use by miners and traders on the colony. Their days became a routine, Serena learning more about the human world, Jonas learning about her alien culture. They shared meals of simple food, sitting quietly in the small space, finding comfort in each other's presence. But not everything was easy. Serena sometimes looked distant, as if haunted by memories she didn't want to share. Jonas saw the pain in her eyes and knew that healing her body was only the beginning. Healing her heart would take more time. One night, as the spaceport buzzed with activity outside, Serena finally spoke more clearly through the translator. "Why did you save me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jonas looked at her, unsure how to answer. He had never thought much about heroes or saviors. He shrugged and said simply, "Because no one else did." Serena nodded slowly, understanding. In that moment, they both knew that this was not just a chance meeting. It was the beginning of something important, a bond formed in a world that had tried to break them both. Meanwhile, the colony continued its daily rhythm of trading, fixing, and surviving. The traders who had sold Serena still talked about her, not with respect but as a lost opportunity. They couldn't see what Jonas saw, that she was not worthless but full of potential. Jonas decided he would protect her, no matter what. He began looking into legal ways to keep her safe, reading old treaties and laws that could help him claim her as a refugee under human protection. It was risky. The trade syndicate was powerful, and they didn't like anyone interfering with their business. But Jonas didn't care. He had made his choice. Together, in the small workshop on Vexa Prime, a mechanic and an alien scientist began to rewrite their stories. She was no longer just a refugee sold for nothing, and he was no longer just a man fixing machines. They were both survivors, finding strength in each other. Time moved slowly in the dusty workshop at the edge of the spaceport, but for Jonas and Serena, each day brought new challenges and small victories. Their relationship, built on quiet trust, was growing stronger, even though neither of them said much about it. Serena was no longer the weak, scared woman who had arrived months ago. She had grown stronger, physically and emotionally. Her skin, which once looked dull and worn, now glowed softly again, a sign of healing and hope. The light in her eyes was clearer, sharper, as if she was starting to believe in a future beyond the shadows of her past. Jonas noticed these changes too. The quiet alien who had once refused to speak now smiled sometimes, and even laughed softly when something amused her. He had never seen her laugh before, and it was a sound he quietly treasured. Even though they came from completely different worlds, they found ways to connect. It started with small things. Serena learning to fix simple machines, Jonas trying to understand her culture, and both sharing stories about the lives they had left behind. Jonas learned that Serena was a scientist from the planet Thalora, a beautiful world filled with glowing forests and peaceful rivers. She was part of a group working to protect the planet's natural energy sources. When war broke out, her research became dangerous to the war leaders. They captured her, hoping to use her knowledge for their own benefit. But instead she escaped and fled into space only to be caught and sold like cargo. Serena never blamed Jonas or humans for the war, but she admitted that the fear and hatred on both sides had destroyed everything she loved. Her story was full of pain, loss, and betrayal. Things Jonas could understand because he had lost friends and family in the same conflict. One day, as Jonas worked on an old exosuit, Serena quietly approached him with a strange device. It was a small glowing orb, covered in alien writing. She explained through the translator chip that it was a tool from her world, used to control energy flow in machines. Jonas was amazed. He had never seen technology like this before. Together, they began to experiment with the orb, trying to repair the damaged suit. Serena's knowledge and Jonas's hands-on skills made them a strong team. The suit powered up, lights blinking and motors humming. Jonas smiled, feeling a sense of pride. This was more than fixing a machine. It was building something new, a symbol of their cooperation. Their teamwork didn't go unnoticed. Other workers at the spaceport began to whisper about the strange pair, a human mechanic and an alien scientist working side by side. Some were curious, others suspicious. But Jonas didn't care what they thought. He was focused on helping Serena, and in the process helping himself. Despite their growing friendship, Serena sometimes grew quiet and distant. Jonas knew she was haunted by memories she wasn't ready to share. One night, as the two sat outside the workshop watching the stars, Serena finally spoke. "My people believed the stars were the souls of our ancestors," she said softly. "When I look at them now, I remember them, and what we lost." Jonas nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He pointed to the sky where distant ships passed like fireflies. "We all carry our past with us," he said, "but maybe we can build a new future too." Serena smiled faintly, feeling comfort in his words. As time went on, Serena proved that she was more than just a survivor. Her knowledge of alien technology was a valuable asset. Jonas began to rely on her not just for repairs, but for ideas and solutions. Together, they started to improve the machines around the spaceport, making engines run smoother, power supplies more efficient, and even developing new ways to save energy. Serena's presence changed the workshop. It became a place of learning and discovery, where two worlds met and grew together. But it wasn't just technology that changed. Jonas and Serena began to understand each other in deeper ways. They shared stories about their families, their fears, and their hopes. Jonas learned that Serena had once dreamed of exploring the stars not as a refugee, but as a scientist who could help other worlds. One evening, Jonas found an old photo among his things. A picture of his family, smiling and happy before the war. He showed it to Serena, who touched the image gently through the screen of the translator chip. "I wish I could see my family again," she said quietly. Jonas looked at her, feeling a strong urge to protect her. "Maybe one day you will," he said softly. Their bond grew stronger, built on trust and respect. For the first time in a long while, Serena felt safe, and Jonas felt that he was part of something bigger than himself. But their peaceful time was not meant to last forever. Word of Serena's survival and her connection to Jonas began to spread. The traders who had sold her once saw her not as worthless cargo anymore, but as a key to something valuable, the secret knowledge hidden in her mind. One day, Jonas found himself facing threats from the trade syndicate. Men with cold eyes and harsh words warned him to hand Serena over. They said she belonged to them, and they would stop at nothing to get her back. Jonas refused. He stood firm, ready to fight for the woman who had changed his life. Serena, too, was ready. She was no longer afraid. Together they would face whatever came next. Through all this, their bond was their greatest strength. In a harsh world that saw her as nothing, Jonas saw her worth. And in him, Serena found a hope she thought was lost forever. Life in the small workshop on the edge of Vexa Prime had become a fragile piece for Jonas and Serena. The quiet days spent fixing machines and sharing stories were moments of calm in a world that still held danger just beyond the horizon. But peace, especially in places like this, is often only temporary. The traders who had sold Serena were angry. They had made a mistake letting her slip away for nothing, and now they wanted her back, not because she was weak or useless, but because she held secrets they wanted desperately. The technology she knew was valuable, and if they could control her, they could control that knowledge. It was a powerful bargaining chip in a universe full of hidden treasures and dangerous wars. One morning, as the twin suns of Vexa Prime began to rise, Jonas noticed unfamiliar faces around the spaceport, men dressed in dark uniforms with sharp eyes and cold expressions. They were from the Trade Syndicate, the ruthless group that controlled much of the illegal trading in this part of the galaxy. They had come looking for Serena. Jonas's heart raced as he realized the danger was real. He had known it could come, but seeing the men in person made it all too clear. He quickly told Serena what was happening. She didn't panic. Instead, she prepared herself quietly, her glowing skin dimming as if she was gathering strength. The syndicate sent a message: hand over Serena or face the consequences. Jonas refused. He stood his ground, knowing full well that the syndicate had power, weapons, and influence. But he was determined to protect Serena, no matter the cost. Days passed with tense silence. The syndicate's men watched from a distance, waiting for a chance to take Serena by force. Jonas worked tirelessly, repairing old equipment and trying to find legal ways to keep her safe. He dug through ancient records, treaties, and laws that might grant Serena asylum or protection under human authority. Serena helped too, using her knowledge to decode documents and search for loopholes. She wanted to fight for her freedom, not run from it. One evening, the syndicate made their move. A group of armed men stormed the workshop demanding Serena. Jonas stood between them and her, refusing to back down. "What do you want?" Jonas shouted. "She belongs to us," the syndicate leader said coldly. "Hand her over." Serena stepped forward, her voice steady through the translator chip. "I am not your property." The room fell silent. Jonas could see the surprise in the leader's eyes. They had expected her to be scared, broken. Instead, she was strong and defiant. A standoff began. The syndicate threatened violence. Jonas knew he couldn't win a fight with them alone, but he was ready to try. In the chaos, Serena made a decision. She offered to leave with the syndicate, hoping to protect Jonas from harm. "Better me than you," she said quietly. Jonas shook his head. "No, we face this together." Just then, a comm alert went off on Jonas's wrist. It was a message from the colony's governing council. An emergency hearing had been called. Someone had exposed the syndicate's illegal activities, including the sale of refugees like Serena. The council wanted to hear the truth. Jonas and Serena seized the chance. They prepared their testimony, gathering documents, recordings, and evidence. Serena was terrified but determined. This was her moment to speak, to tell her story. The hearing was held in a large chamber filled with officials, reporters, and curious onlookers. Serena stood before them, no longer a victim but a witness. She told them about her planet, the war, her capture, and the auction. She spoke of the cruelty she endured, the loss of her family, and the hope she found in Jonas's kindness. Her voice trembled but never broke. Every word was a blow to the syndicate's lies and greed. Jonas stood by her side, supporting her. Together they showed the council the truth. Evidence of illegal sales, forced auctions, and the dehumanization of refugees. The council members listened carefully. Some were moved, others shocked. After hours of testimony, the syndicate's influence began to weaken. The hearing ended with a decision. Serena would be granted asylum and the trade syndicate would be investigated and prosecuted. The illegal auctions would be shut down. Serena and Jonas had won a small but important victory. Back at the workshop, they felt a weight lift from their shoulders. The danger was not gone, but they had hope. Serena looked at Jonas with gratitude. "You saved me." Jonas smiled. "No, you saved yourself. I just helped." Their bond, tested by fear and betrayal, was stronger than ever. The world outside was still harsh, but inside that small workshop, two unlikely friends had found justice, and each other. After the hearing and the victory against the trade syndicate, life on Vexa Prime began to change slowly but surely. The news spread across the colony and beyond. Serena was no longer just an alien refugee or a piece of stolen cargo. She was a person with rights, a survivor with a story that needed to be heard. For Jonas and Serena, this victory was just the beginning. The hard work of rebuilding their lives, healing their wounds, and finding a place in a world that had once rejected her stretched out before them like an open road full of both challenges and possibilities. Serena found herself in a new role. The colony's governing council offered her the chance to work as a scientific advisor, using her knowledge to help improve technology, develop sustainable energy sources, and protect the environment. It was the kind of work she had dreamed of back on her home planet, before the war shattered her world. But this new life was not easy. Serena had to learn the rules of this society, navigate complex politics, and deal with the suspicions some people still held against aliens. She faced discrimination, whispers, and doubts. But she was stronger now. The pain of her past had shaped her into a determined woman who refused to be broken again. Jonas stood by her side through it all. He continued his work as a mechanic, but now with a new purpose, helping Serena and supporting her mission. Their small workshop became a hub of innovation, where alien technology and human machines combined to create new possibilities. Together, they worked on projects to improve the colony's life. More efficient power grids, safer mining equipment, and even tools for medical use. Serena's expertise and Jonas's practical skills made them a powerful team, respected by many in the colony. Despite their busy schedules, Jonas and Serena found time for each other. Their friendship deepened into something more. Quiet. Evenings in the workshop turned into shared meals and then long conversations about hopes, fears, and dreams. They learned about each other's cultures, traditions, and histories. One night, as they looked up at the stars, Serena shared a story from her childhood about the Light Tree, a legendary tree on her planet that glowed with energy and was said to connect all living things. It was a symbol of life, hope, and unity. Jonas listened, fascinated, feeling that their own story was like that tree, two very different lives connected by something powerful and bright. But the road to peace was not without obstacles. Some people in the colony still mistrusted Serena. A few powerful figures wanted to silence her, fearing that her knowledge could upset the balance of power. Jonas and Serena faced threats, sabotage attempts, and harsh criticism, yet each challenge only made them stronger. They stood united, using their voices and skills to protect each other and fight for a better future. One day, Serena received a message from her home planet. A small group of survivors had been found, and they were rebuilding. The war was over, but the scars remained. Hearing this news filled Serena with mixed emotions, hope, sadness, and a longing for the past. Jonas encouraged her to visit Thalora when the time was right. "You've saved yourself," he said. "Now you can help save your people." Serena smiled, grateful for his support. As time passed, their bond grew into love. It wasn't a sudden, fiery romance, but a slow, steady flame that warmed their hearts. They found comfort in each other's presence and strength in their shared purpose. The colony, once a harsh and unforgiving place, began to change too. Serena's work inspired others to see aliens not as enemies or possessions, but as friends and partners. The illegal trade was dismantled, and new laws protected refugees and promoted equality. Jonas and Serena became symbols of hope, proof that even in the darkest times, kindness and courage could change the world. Their journey from desperation to hope wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming dignity, building trust, and creating a future where everyone could belong. One quiet evening, as the twin suns set over Vexa Prime, Jonas and Serena sat outside their workshop, watching the sky turn colors of pink and orange. Serena reached out and took Jonas's hand. "Thank you," she said softly, "for seeing me, for saving me." Jonas smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "No one is worthless, not you, not me. We all have value. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us." And with that, they looked up at the stars, feeling that their story, once full of pain and struggle, was now filled with light and endless possibilities.